Hello everyone, I hope you're having an amazing day. Today we'll be checking out Badlion LITE, the most recent addition to the Badlion client family. I wanted to cover this client for a while, and now that it's here and I've tested it, I can say it did not disappoint. So without any further ado, let's get into the video. So the way you get Badlion LITE is by the same launcher you would get normal Badlion. In fact, Badlion LITE is actually a part of normal Badlion that you enable inside of the game, which is honestly kind of interesting. The thing I wanted to mention the most is something related to the first installation. Okay, sure, the first installation takes a while, but honestly, I kind of forgot how or what a while was. For other clients, I remember maybe 1-2 minutes and you were up. On Badlion, 5.5 minutes. Currently, you're watching the sped up footage of that installation process. It's a while. But after that, loading times, if there's no patches to do, it's honestly quite fast at 12 seconds, even faster than some other clients like Lunar. Badlion LITE's UI is similar to the one found in normal Badlion, but I believe it's slightly cleaner. There was some adjustments made. It's less cluttered in the terms of modules that it shows for you to enable and disable. I believe what they did is see the mods that people use the most, for example keystrokes and FPS mods, put those in there, as well as like 1.8, 1.7 animations, and the ones that people use less in another category so you can enable them manually when needed. And honestly, that is a great decision, because for people who want to use the client and would be overwhelmed by like 80 plus mods, I believe we reached the time where, oh, now we have 2 or 3 more features than the other client is like a stupid thing, a stupid metric to even consider. Because most clients nowadays, all of them have the features that all the players are going to need. So it's not really a fair comparison, and adding more and more just makes everything more cluttered, forcing you to have search bars to search everything. And if you're a new player that doesn't know, it's kind of hard. Something else I liked about it is the ability to move modules without clicking the special Edit UI button. It is something I believe the old Badlion lacked, but this one doesn't. I can literally just click the FPS module and just move it around. I believe there were 2 modes. I can use the mod snapping, or it'll snap modules in a similar position to each other, or just free snapping or free alignment or whatever that is called, so that those grids disappear and I can just move it around wherever I want. Super sick. Other than the mods, the UI, there's not really a hell lot that I could talk about. Sure, I could talk about the smoothness of it, but honestly, every single time I've tested so many clients nowadays, and every single client is smooth. Every single client works well. There's no, oh, going from client A to client B will just make everything much smoother, like one doesn't have motion blur and the other one has. Or one has better input. At the end of the day, Minecraft is Minecraft, and there's not a whole lot that the client creators or developers actually make to make this a more enjoyable experience, other than what I just said. But now we go into the more tricky part, which is performance. And for that, I'm going to be a little bit different. Other creators use average FPS as their only metric. I use RWPMS, which was a system I created myself, completely automated, an Excel spreadsheet, which takes into account everything related to FPS, so average FPS, 1 and 0.1% lows, the chunk loading speed, the loading speed of the client, how much RAM it uses, a total of 8 values. And all together, when they are added back to back, they create a specific number, which then gets like through a little sorter and gives it a specific ranking. So now that you've seen a bit of gameplay here in the background, let's go to the numbers. And here are the values. 1033 maximum FPS, minimum FPS of 493, average FPS of 849, with the 1% lows, so 1% of the time what frame rate it is going to be, approximately, of 298, and 0.1% lows of 106. The reason this is low, really low, in this case the minimum FPS, so the actual minimum FPS it ever got was 493, I believe the reason for it is just because of stability. And this is not even a problem with the client, I believe it's a Minecraft general thing, and it happens with other games. If I am at 125 or 200 FPS constantly, it will always be at 200 FPS. The problem is, because this is 1300, it always fluctuates because it can never sustain 1033 FPS at all times. So this is actually why it does so. Now from the testing I don't have an image of it, but from the testing I made, chunk loading, or in this case 16 chunks of render distance, rendered in a total of 10.2 seconds, while vanilla rendered in 3.3. It is not that bad, but it could be better. And I had 3 GB of RAM allocated, which honestly, compared to Lunar, was actually really great, because I set it to 3 and it set exactly to 3 and never exceeded it. While Lunar, I set use 3 GB and it would use 5 GB when I looked at it. So yeah. Now this is the thing. These values altogether don't tell you anything, but this does. Right, so looking at this, we can clearly see what it is that happened here. The chunk test failed, and the number that is there, 45, is the amount of points that it is going to deduct after the other calculations happened. It failed because this test is made, so if the chunk's modded, so that value you see up there, if that number is higher than 8, it will fail. If it's below that, it is going to pass, because 8 generally is okay, relatively fast. Loading test passed because while it took 5 minutes initially, after there's no patches and you just log on to the game, from my testing it was like 12-13 seconds. And that test only fails if it's above 25. So, okay, that's good. And there was another test that failed, which is the chunk diff test. This one is linked to the chunk loading difference. That one is the interesting one. So there's actually 3 rankings, there's 3 standards at the side. There's the gold, the silver, and the copper. The gold you get if that value is less than 0, meaning that if the modded version took less time than vanilla, it gets a gold standard, because that's honestly pretty impressive. Though you can get it with sodium and a few other mods. The silver ranking, or the silver standard, is the most common, which if it's anything from 0 to 1.9. If the value, however, is greater than 2, it becomes generally a problem. I may alter this later, but for now it is like this, and this is a 7, that is clearly larger than 2, so that test also fails. However, we now get the final score. The final zeta. There's 2 zetas, which is the final score before cuts and the final score after cuts. So the before cuts, it's 2286, and the after cuts is 2069. Nice. It doesn't change much, but it is enough great to give it an S. And honestly, that kind of is my general ranking of it. The client is not something that, oh my god, it has so many features, but it's supposed to be a light client. And for its purpose, the purpose that it's trying to be, so light, simplistic, it achieves that. So yeah, that is basically the final ranking I give. And this is basically the video. I'm tired, I spent a few hours rendering and editing this. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.